Hello, hello.
Hello, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm gonna look through my list, Joe, and make sure we've got everybody.
I'm just making sure you guys don't have background noise being here.
I think we're missing a few people still. Maybe give it a minute or two. Mm. Joe, it looks like we're just missing Elena, and she actually didn't RSVP to the calendar invite, so I don't know if she was
Hmm.
maybe wasn't going to be able to make it today.
Okay.
But otherwise, we've got everybody else.
Okay. We'll go ahead and get started here.
Okay.
Very good. Welcome, everyone. I am going to start my PowerPoint here. Well, wait a second. Let's see if this works. Does that work? Can you guys see the slides okay? All right. Very good. Welcome, everyone. We are doing a training today for our new grantees, our sub-grantees, as we often refer to you. The Federal Department of Education calls us the grantee for the funds, and then we award it to you all. So you are a sub-grantee. So you might see me use that term. I try not to use acronyms too much in some of these jargon and terms, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's government. We've got a billion of them, right? So unfortunately, there are some, and I will try to educate everybody as much as I can. I know a number of you, so a bulk of you are returning recipients, sub-grantees. So this maybe isn't brand new to you, but I know we have some new staff and we've got one new program that has never received the funds. So very excited about that today. Um, Now, I have gone through, some of you again have maybe sat through this before, so bear with me, but I went through and kind of really tried to kind of clean things up, simplify things, knowing that this is for new awardees or sub-grantees. So I didn't want to hit you with too much information. So I don't think we'll take an entire hour to kind of run through things, but I did try to kind of clean it up and kind of really get to the point of at this point in time, what do you really need to know about this grant program, and kind of as we prepare for the year ahead to kind of kick things off, what are some things to keep in mind? As we'll talk about, there are continued trainings, continued meetings, continued support opportunities. So we're not just going to have this and just kind of say, run with it, good luck. There is constant support and a million resources available to try to help kind of run through all the ins and outs and things that are required and so forth. But as usual, reach out if you ever have any questions. I know some things can get confusing on funding programs, particularly when it relates to the federal government. So I've got the agenda up here today. Again, we're gonna try to keep things really light, and I don't think it will take an entire hour. If there's any questions, you don't have to wait to the end. Go ahead and throw them in the chat box, raise your hand, or just kind of interrupt me. I kind of tend to talk fast and kind of quick, or loud. So go ahead and just interject if anything kind of doesn't make any sense. But again, we're not going to cover everything today. I know that's, everybody's disappointed in that. Just trying to get through kind of the basics for this training. So, without further ado, I want to spend just a little bit of time kind of getting to know one another. So, I want to know a couple of things about you, and I'll maybe call you out and go off of mute. But I just want to know your name, kind of who you are, who you work for, how long have you been in that position. I know, again, we've got some veterans for this program and after school world, but maybe some of you are new. And that's fine. I am certainly new to this area, and I'll give a little bit more of a spiel about myself here shortly. But I'm also curious about kind of your favorite summertime snack or food item or drink or whatever it happens to be. It can be an adult beverage, that's fine. But I'm curious to hear if there's anything that you were just waiting for the summer so that you can kind of enjoy. So I think we'll maybe start. I will go to Kristen first, if you don't mind.
Sure. Hi, Kristen Clayton with Oak Ridge Neighborhood. I'm in our business office here at Oak Ridge, and I've been here for about 3.5 years. So not on the program side, but I certainly see all the info as it passes through claims and working with our team to make sure that we're doing all the things we need to do for 21st century. So excited to be part of a new 5-year grant cycle. And favorite summertime, I'm gonna go, we're here in Iowa, so I'm gonna go sweet corn. I love the sweet corn.
Mm. Yeah, so do my kids. I've got two boys, 5 and 8, and they love corn. They they would eat it every meal, and they're like, "Why are we having it?" And they, of course, want the fresh, which you got to boil, and it just takes a while, right? And then one of them always has me chop it off anyway, so I'm like, "Why can't we just do the canned?" I don't, whatever. But that's fine. I love it too. Very good. Let's go to another Clayton. I don't think there's any relation, but Charles Clayton, if you would mind going next. Yeah.
Hi, Charles Clayton out of Fort Dodge. I'm with Athletics for Education and Success, nonprofit that I founded probably about 25 years ago. This is our first year of the 21st century, but we've been doing after school programs, summer programs since we started the program early 2000s. And favorite summertime, I would say smoked brisket.
Mm, yeah.
And if I can wash it down with a cognac, even better.
There you go. Yeah, so welcome, Charles. We're very excited to have a new program. As some of you may recall, Fort Dodge Community School District had the grant for a number of years, and then last year decided to end it. So we know that created kind of a vacuum in the Fort Dodge area. So we're very excited that Charles and his team stepped up and are going to continue providing some of those services and pull down some of the funding. So very excited about that. Very good. Let's go to Bailey next.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bailey Moore. I'm with the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Cedar Valley. I serve as the Director of Operations and Director of Finance for the clubs. I've been involved with the organization since January of 2021, so this is 4 official years now. We've done 21st century programs ever since I've been involved. It's been a really great partnership for us, a really great way for us to serve some of the kids in the Waterloo community here. This will be the second new grant that I've been a part of. So really excited to be back. Really, really thankful that the state was interested in funding our programs yet again here. So I'm just really glad to be here. My favorite summertime food or drink. Summer is fair season, and with the state fair coming up, I always enjoy a little bit of fair food myself.
Absolutely. I've got the funnel cake down there. It's one of my favorites. Corn dogs, funnel cakes, lemonade. Oh yeah, I stock up. Very good. Let's go to Molly. And Molly, I don't think you're feeling too good today, are you?
Hi, friends. No, I am at home right now. I have strep. I have a camp of a few hundred kids, so I always catch something towards the end. So, I'm at home, so if it's hard to hear me, I'm sorry. But my name is Molly Jones. I am with the Clinton Community School District. I've been in my current position for about 4 years now, but I've been in the camp after school nonprofit world for about 10 years. And my experience at 21 CCLC was I had never really been a part of it until I had come on to this role. It was then that We had ended a grant. We had to go another way on Clinton, and now we are back in the game. Just very grateful to be here. Very grateful to have the opportunity. And I'm ready to rock it this year again. And my favorite summertime, I'm more of a drink kind of person. So fair lemonade is always a go-to, and not the pink lemonade. You just got to go the original yellow lemonade.
I hear you. Yep, I agree. Very good. Yeah, thanks for being here, Molly. And I think I had mentioned to the group, but we did a story. So the Department of Education put a story out about 21st century funds, and we highlighted Molly's program from the Clinton area about kind of a more rural district that's pulling down funds as a way to hopefully build awareness. And we hope to do a lot more of those stories and kind of sing your praises and kind of get the word out about what's going on. So if you hadn't seen that story, that's out there, and we appreciate Molly doing that with us. All right, let's go to Claudia, please. Claudia Young.
Hi, good morning. Claudia, Des Moines Public Schools. Uh, August will make my first year with 21st Century Programming. Before that, I actually was the HR manager that oversaw the hiring and stuff for the program. But I've learned a lot more actually in this role, and I do appreciate this role. I think it allows me to bring all of my identities and all of my learning and all of my experience into this role. So I appreciate having that. Um, I don't look forward to any foods anymore. As an adult, I have gained allergies out of this world. So
Oh
yeah,
no.
corn, sweet corn was one of my favorites growing up, but I am actually allergic to corn as we live in Iowa. Okay. So there's that piece of it. And also wheat. So like, just whatever I can get my hands on that's not going to make me feel sick.
Yeah.
I miss
Oh
funnel
no.
cake and all the things. So please, everyone, eat all the things for me this summer. Yeah.
I will do my best to do that. Yeah. Sorry to hear.
Thank you. I think having children changed
It
my body completely.
Oh sure. Yeah, it stinks getting old, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, happy to have you here. Next, I think I'll turn to my colleagues at the After School Alliance. Heidi, would you mind going?
Sure, I'll go. My name's Heidi Brown. I'm the director of the Iowa After School Alliance. I know most of you, but I see some new faces. Charles, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. I've been director of the Iowa After School Alliance for about 3 years now. Before that, I spent about 15, 16 years at Des Moines Public Schools in Claudia's position. So directing after school programs and 21st century programs. I feel like that gives me a pretty unique perspective on what you guys deal with every day. And I'm not so far removed that I can't help you. So call me if ever you have a question. I just sit by my phone waiting for you to call me. That's all I do. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you all here. I love junk food in the summertime. Stuff on the grill. I love a good chili dog. But I will tell you, I have not been eating meat lately. So I'm mostly watermelon and tomatoes out of my garden right now with lots of mayonnaise and salt.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, and then Adriana from the After School Alliance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adriana Slaughter. I am a program manager at the Iowa After School Alliance. Heidi's second chair. I have experience in as a camp counselor, as well as I've been a student in a lot of after school programs throughout my K through 12 experience. I have a bachelor's degree in youth development, a master's in higher education, and I've been here for, oh my God, I'm like 3 weeks, it'll be like a year that I've been at the Iowa After School Alliance. Um, Favorite summertime food or treat? I mean, I like me a good summer shandy. Um, that's what I love to drink in the summers. But I also enjoy ice cream. But that's year round. That's not really summer. But ice cream's always great. Can't wait to try that spattery shake at the ice cream.
Mm, yummy. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll go next. So again, Joe Collins, I have been in this position. I'm brand new to the after school area. So I have been in my role since about mid-March. So I guess about 4 or 5 months at this point. Still kind of drinking from a fire hose, like the rest of you that are new to this program. So I'm kind of learning as we go. So bear with me if I don't know the answers. I'm certainly gonna track them down as quickly as I can. But I took kind of a weird path to get here. I started out in the private sector. I graduated with business degrees, and I was doing marketing and HR and kind of a lot of stuff. And then I got into education. I was really passionate about career counseling, academic advising. So I went back to school and got a master's degree in education. And then I got in this crazy public sector world, and I originally was working for Iowa Workforce Development. I worked for them for about 4 years here in Des Moines, and I was doing workshops for people who are on unemployment or underemployed, kind of looking for different careers. So kind of running through like what are your dream jobs and how do we find them and how do we these resumes and how do you answer interview questions, stuff like that. So I did a bunch of that. And then I found a job here at the Department of Education that was really helping with like community partnerships, kind of bringing all these worlds together, education, business, community-based organizations, doing a lot of that work for the Department of Education. And I learned about after-school programs kind of during that process and the importance of them. But I did that for about 5 years. And then some of that funding in that role was changed with the big government realignment that we've been kind of going through over the last couple of years. So then I moved into career and technical education with here at the Department of Ed and doing healthcare and health science programs as well. And then this position opened up with the departure of Vic Jarvis at the end of last year. And it was something that, again, I realized the importance of in my community work and trying to kind of build partnerships, that daycare, that place that kids can go to be safe and continue to learn. So when I saw this open up, I thought this could be something really cool that I could get behind. So I moved into this role again about 5 or 6 months ago, about 4 or 5 at this point, and have been really excited to get to know all of you and know your programs, and then continue to support you, particularly those that are new or that you've renewed, and this is a kind of a new source of funding for you. I will say that my favorite summertime food, I go to the fair, I go like one day and then I'm done for the year, but I do the giant lemonade, with a ton of sugar in it. I always get a lamb burger, which is something kind of weird. I kind of go to the lamb area first. I get a lamb cheeseburger, a giant lemonade, a funnel cake, and then maybe a corn dog if I haven't kind of overfilled by the end of the day or my kids haven't driven me crazy at the fair. But yeah, definitely look forward to the fair food and being out there and kind of enjoying it. Very good. So thank you for sharing. I know we've got a little bit of a smaller group here. Very good. And then I wanted to take a minute just to talk about kind of our collaboration because we are, and this isn't unique to Iowa. A lot of other states, they can't really do it themselves. The Department of Education needs support. And so they outsource some of this, the projects and kind of some of the job duties to other groups. And here in Iowa, we partner with the Iowa After School Alliance to provide a lot of support to you all as grant recipients. So I maybe am going to focus a bit more on kind of the budget questions, the claims, compliance, kind of the federal, kind of what is the program, what are the requirements, what are the rules, kind of some of the boring stuff, unfortunately, that we have to we have to deal with. But I'm maybe going to be your best source for that information about what can I do, not do with these funds. And then as I learn more, I hope to offer quite a bit more about technical assistance and support and ideas about kind of strengthening programs or expanding partnerships. But really, we again partner with the Iowa After School Alliance to provide a lot of that support. So technical support, heading up some of the professional development initiatives that we're going to talk about, some of the best practice webinars that are offered throughout the year, a number of different committee meetings, director meetings. So you'll see Heidi kind of managing those meetings or Adriana managing some of those meetings and webinars and so forth. So as we go through and we're talking about some of the requirements and those aspects, I'll try to make sure that we talk about kind of who's doing what throughout that process. And Heidi, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that or say about that, kind of this partnership.
Just that I'm here to help you in capacity of 21st century programs, but also Iowa After School Alliance supports after school, all after school programs. So if you have other programs happening that aren't funded by 21st century that you need assistance with or support in or anything like that, you can come to us for that too.
Great. Yeah, that's a great point. And I would say, kind of, especially anybody that's brand new to the program, if you have a question, just copy us both, send us an email and copy us both, and we'll kind of figure out, who kind of takes the lead on that or whatever. But also just give me a call, whatever. I'm happy to do text, call, whatever's easiest for you. I would say email is probably the best for me, though. My number is out there on like a number of different state and government sites, so I get spammed all day long. It's kind of ridiculous the amount of spam I get. So email I'm generally more quick to kind of get to and to address. But phone and text is fine as well. But we're happy to partner with the After School Alliance on a bunch of stuff, and they're great. There are also a number of websites. So this doesn't actually, Iowa After School Alliance has their own website, which has a lot of really great stuff. But again, that's maybe going to be kind of a broader view about after school programs. We have two specific sites that are get dedicated to this grant. So the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant, Title IV, Part B. The Iowa Department of Education site, and I'd recommend reviewing these. We're maybe not going to run through, but the Iowa Department of Education site, and we will send the PowerPoint, by the way, as well as a number of resources following this meeting. But the Iowa Department of Education site is a government site. It is rather boring. I don't mind saying there's not a lot of pictures. It's kind of just a bunch of information, a bunch of forms, information, kind of just what you need to know about the grant, about the program. And again, a big focus on compliance and kind of rules and regulations and budgets and templates and all sorts of stuff is on the site. Again, maybe not super fun to look at and not a lot of pictures, but we do have the Iowa 21 CCLC site that the After School Alliance offers and supports, which is maybe a little bit easier to navigate and has a lot more stuff on it. So there's information as well that you might want to use for marketing. So when you're trying to kind of promote your program and sell your program, as well as recordings like this interaction or this meeting will be posted on the site. But there's also recordings of all of the different meetings throughout the year, the directors' meetings, the various committee meetings, the best practice webinars. Again, we'll kind of go through some of those through the presentation today. But a lot of that information is going to be housed on their site, on that site, as well as an archive of all of the grant applications that they had received from previous years. So you'll see a little bit of kind of crossover between some of the stuff, but I would say that their site is going to have quite a bit more. And then again, it's probably a little bit easier to navigate than ours, and just looks nicer. Again, Heidi, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I think you got it. I think if you're looking for, if you're looking for stuff like curriculum or ideas for things to do in your after school program or people that that you'd like to reach out to that could be a community partner that could come in and do things with your kids, you're going to want to go to the 21 CCLC site that we host at Iowa After School Alliance. And if you're looking for more of rules, regulations and stuff like that, you're going to find it on the Department of Ed, but to be fair, you're also going to find it on the 21 CCLC site. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got a question about where you can find something, go just reach out. We'll get it to you.
Yep. Lots and lots of information. I get a lot of questions about budgets, so I know there's a number of different documents that specifically go through budgets and what's allowed and what's not allowed. So we are in the process of kind of updating some of those because some of them are getting a little bit dated, but there is a lot of information out there. But if you can't find it or if you just want to like the Cliff's Notes, kind of give me the summary about this, definitely let me know. I get lots of questions. As we'll talk about, there's quite a bit of flexibility with this funding. Generally, federal funding is very rigid, very kind of black and white, but this funding specifically has a bit of flexibility to it in how states kind of manage it from the state level. The federal government, like I said, they award the funds to us, and then we have kind of our own policies and procedures that we use to kind of navigate that. But we do have quite a bit of flexibility. So if there's ever any questions about, can I do this? Or maybe, would this be allowed? That I would say just shoot me an email or give me a call and we can kind of talk through and kind of hash through what maybe the federal government views as being in that area, as well as kind of as a state, how we kind of view things. And you might be surprised at some of the flexibility that we have available to kind of do things, as long as it's benefiting kids and your programs in kind of appropriate ways. But lots of information online. I wanted to just real quick kind of put up a slide and kind of talk through there's a lot of acronyms, like I mentioned, we talk about title programs and Part A, Part B, ESSA, ESEA, and all of this stuff. So I wanted to kind of consolidate on one slide, try to help you understand how this fits into this broader picture. But ESEA, and you'll also see that within my title, I'm in the Bureau of ESEA programs. We used to be called the federal programs, but we recently changed our name. So I had a lot of people just say, "What the heck is ESEA? I don't even know." So the ESEA is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. It was passed back in the 60s to really help make sure that all kids were getting a good education and kind of being supported in the best way possible to achieve kind of their career and academic goals. So that was passed a long time ago. And as you can imagine, there's been kind of incremental changes to it or kind of reclassifications or recertifications. One of the ones that a lot of people maybe are aware of kind of in early 2000s was the No Child Left Behind Act. That really changed a lot of the ways that we approach some federal funding program, but particularly with accountability and kind of entering data and testing of students. So that it was essentially ESEA, but kind of redone. And then the newest kind of rendition or kind of reauthorization of ESEA is ESSA. Very similar acronym, right? But Every Student Succeeds Act. So you've maybe heard that a little bit more because that is the newest version and the current version of the ESEA Act from back in the 60s. So there is an ESSA state plan that we have approved. If you want to learn more about these title programs, there are a bunch of them, and I highlighted our program, Title IV Part B. If you want to learn more about all of these other programs and kind of this targeted populations that they support or the types of programs that they support, I put a link in here if you want to kind of learn or kind of go through further. But also, if you just want to see kind of the updated state plan, which was just released this last year, of the ESSA plan in the state of Iowa and how we kind of approach things. You are more than welcome to. You don't really need to know all the ins and outs of this. I just wanted to throw it in there because sometimes it gets confusing with all these acronyms and kind of how they all fit together. And as you can imagine, there's lots of kind of review going on right now, just in general, of kind of federal funding of education programs. So this may all be changing as well a little bit further, is depending on what kind of happens with our budgets and kind of federal programs in the future. So stay tuned for more information on that. But the kind of the bread and the butter, the MVP of our conversation is the Title IV Part B, Nita M. Lowey 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant. Now that is a mouthful, so we usually just say 21 CCLC, or 21st Century Funds. Maybe I'll say Title IV Part B, but generally you'll just see that acronym, 21 CCLC. The purpose of this program is to create community learning centers, and I'm not going to read this exactly, but essentially providing an opportunity, a safe environment for students to continue to learn after school hours. So kind of out of school time, where it's either before school, after school, or summer learning opportunities. But the federal government provides us with funds that we then provide out to you all, sub-grantees, to create these centers, these learning centers where you're providing learning enrichment, you're providing, again, kind of a safe place for kids to go to be engaged and continue to learn with out of school time hours. And I know you applied for the grant, so you already know a lot of this, by the way, but I just wanted to kind of run through some things. And specifically, how is it different? Because here again, a lot of your business office staff or the superintendents or school staff that you're working with, they're maybe used to their area or other title programs. And again, some of the rigidity and kind of rules and regs that apply to those programs maybe don't apply quite as much to this program because of some of the flexibility. And then, like I mentioned, a big difference is this is out of school time. So most of the other title programs, those are within school hours. So within kind of the basic public education process, school hours, school time, and so forth. This is the out of school time, before school, after school, and summer breaks. Many federal funding programs are also formula based, just based on student population. You get it every year. The federal government just kind of applies it, and bing, bang, boom. You don't have to really do much. You just get it every year and you just apply it to different types of populations. 21st Century is a competitive grant process. So we are provided funds from the federal government based on population, but then we provide a grant competition that groups then apply for. It is not a guaranteed funding stream. Not every school district gets it. It's very different in that regard where different groups can get it. You can also have groups like faith-based organizations or nonprofits, which I know a number of you fall into that bucket, can get this funding. Again, that is very different from a lot of other federal funding programs where it has to go to a school or a public district. Very different in some of these ways. As I mentioned, there's also quite a bit of flexibility about the ways that things are used, kind of how you can use them, budget requirements, application rules, stuff like that, which again, we maybe don't need to go through kind of the nitty-gritty, but I think I'd mentioned if you're ever in doubt, just shoot me an email and we can kind of go from there. But there is quite a bit of guidance and different resources on our website that kind of run through the allowability and what we can and cannot do here in the state of Iowa with these funds. We do unfortunately have our own kind of dating program that we call the APR Annual Performance Report. It's called 21 APR, and it is a dedicated system. You will all be given access to that as we kind of look to provide data. This is on an annual basis, but it's always a year behind. We'll talk a little bit more about this, particularly as it pertains to program evaluation. But you really won't need to begin entering data about your program until next year because you're always looking at performance for the prior year. Gets a little bit confusing. So again, we're maybe not going to dig too far into data and evaluation stuff. But that is something that is a little bit unique. It's got its own system where you enter data versus some of the other title programs. Maybe it's all compiled within a singular system or entered in different ways. The 21st Century Program is also a 5-year grant, or up to 5 years, I should say. If you look at some resources, you'll see it mentioned as a 3-year program, a 5-year program. It gets very confusing. So I wanted to just take a minute to review this. This is also different from some other of the title federal programs where you get funding and then it's just every year. You just get every year and it just kind of keeps going, going, going. You don't have to do anything different with it. With the 21st Century Program, we approach it as a 5-year program that when you apply for funds through the competitive grant process, you essentially say, how are you going to use these funds for each of the first 3 years of the grant cycle? And then if you want to continue receiving funds, you have to take part in a comprehensive site visit where we come and we'll kind of take a look and kind of run through and talk and kind of meet, just make sure everything's kind of going according to plan and funds are being used in an appropriate manner. And then if all that all kind of checks out and you want to continue receiving funds, you don't have to. You could get an additional 2 years with some slightly reduced funding. So we dropped 25% of the funding, so you're only getting about 75% of the funding that you had been getting. And that is meant to try to help kind of start preparing for longer term sustainability once the funds kind of drop off that cliff at the end of the 5th year. So it gets a little confusing about kind of what it is, how it isn't, but we look at it as a 5-year plan. Most programs keep their funding for the full 5 year. They want to continue funding, but we do occasionally have groups that at the end of the 3rd year say, nope, that's fine. We don't want it anymore. We're gonna apply for another kind of grant process. We don't want that 4th and 5th year at that reduced funding. So you do have some flexibility in how you approach those kind of final 2 years. And then I just put a note at the bottom. There is again some flexibility. You submitted the budget with your grant competition, your application, and we generally kind of stick to that pretty closely because that's why we awarded funds. It was kind of your plan and kind of how you laid it out. But there is some flexibility to kind of move some things around if you had planned, X amount for staff, but you really want to funnel more of that into programs or the students and kind of different buckets. We do allow some of that funding kind of movement, but you do have to get approval for that. So there again, it's just shooting me an email. We have a form that you can fill out, but really to start the process, I would just shoot me an email and just say, hey, we've changed, or maybe this site closed. I didn't know the site was going to close, but it did. Now we've got to kind of modify the number of students we're assisting or the amount of funding that we're pulling down. No worries. We can work with you on that. Just don't be afraid to kind of reach out and ask. I would say the sooner the better to kind of start working through things. But I just want to make sure everybody's aware that there is some flexibility and we can work with you or if things do change. And again, I would say sooner is better than later, not waiting until the end of the quarter or the end of that year to say, by the way, this changed and we're trying to kind of recover from it. It's better to kind of get it up, in front of things before they kind of snowball into something bigger and create bigger issues down the road. Um, so you all know this, but after school programs are very, very important. They provide a very important service. You're very impactful at what you do. And with that being said, we try to make sure that we are putting kind of our best program forward and supporting you and trying to provide some very specific types of services and support to your programs. Again, you obviously had this kind of built into your application because you were awarded funds. But I wanted to talk really quickly because you'll hear us refer to kind of quality programs and what that might be, as well as we'll begin talking a little bit about some of the requirements that are part of the grant to make sure you do have a quote unquote quality program, and that you are following kind of all the rules and kind of regulations that come with federal funding. So kudos to you. A lot of your communities can't kind of function without a really quality program and what you do. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, and then I want to talk a little bit about kind of what this means. What is a quality program? And then start digging into some of the again requirements, which I know are kind of boring, and compliance is kind of boring. But we want to talk about some of the requirements of the grant, and then I see some of the opportunities of being involved in some of those requirements. And we don't really do requirements for the sake of being, having requirements. It's more trying to make sure that we're assisting you as much as possible to have a really good and quality program. So you're making as much kind of change and impact in your community as possible. And then we can do as much as we can to support you in those endeavors. So you will be measured in terms of kind of quality in a couple of different ways. One of the big ones is participant enrollment and attendance. So based on and at the bottom down here, I've got a screenshot of what appeared in your contracts that you all signed. So this was kind of a very summarized version of it in your contracts. But this was also, again, talked about quite a bit in the application. You kind of agreed that you would meet some of these requirements. And then again, we will continue to have meetings on a monthly basis and kind of going through some of these. But I wanted to kind of real quick kind of go through some of the requirements. But one of the big ones is attendance. So are you meeting 70% of your attendance by year one? Are you meeting 80% by year three? But that is one of the big ones that we're trying to kind of make sure that, you didn't think you were going to have 500 students and then you only have 50. Why did that happen? How can we work with you on that? And what's maybe going on with some of the program enrollments and attendance that we're seeing. This, again, a lot of this is going to be captured in some of the data and the program evaluation stuff that we're going to talk a little bit about here shortly. But program enrollment and attendance are a big one and something that's relatively easy for you to track, right? To keep track of. Decrease in discipline and incidents. So a big goal is that when students are taking your after school programs and they're continuing to learn and they're getting some of that academic support, they will not get in trouble as much, theoretically. That's the hope. We're also kind of keeping kids out of trouble if they're in that safe environment and kind of being overseen by adults and kind of, again, being engaged and kind of staying active. So that's something that we try to focus on. We obviously hope that there's improvements in academic performance as well. If they're getting help with tutoring, if they're doing their homework in the after school environment, if they're kind of being engaged and their kind of brains are growing and they're having that healthy interaction with different types of guests and speakers and so forth and doing field trips, there's lots of different ways that we can help kind of add context to that learning to help with those performance with your programs, the academic performance. Your participation in various professional development activities, webinars, and conferences, which again we'll talk about here shortly, as well as some of the committee meetings that we have and some of the groups that meet. And then compliance with program rules and regulations. That's kind of probably goes without saying, but we want to make sure that everything is being done kind of up to snuff and nothing is going on that we would ever have issues with at either the state or federal level. Which again, there is just a mountain of kind of guidance and rules and kind of documentation that's out there. But if you're ever in any doubt, just reach out and ask a question, and then you can get something in writing from me just to make sure that it is either allowed or not allowed. And then if there's something that we can do to support you to either make changes to get in compliance or to address that for future programs or years or whatever it happens to be. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about if we're getting ready to launch, which I know many of you are already operating. The way that we manage our funds here in the state is on the state fiscal year, which is July 1st through June 30th. So it's kind of a July through June. So many of you are already kind of using your funds. It will get a little tricky with when you can submit those funds for this first quarter. The first quarter is kind of a weird kind of summer as well as part of the first of the school year. So it's kind of this really elongated quarter where you will be reimbursed for allowable funding in programs that you're already doing, but not until really kind of the November timeframe. The end of October is when stuff would be submitted. But you will be reimbursed for those qualifying purchases and so forth. But if you haven't started your program yet, again, if you don't have summer programming and you're kind of looking at the August, September timeframe, this is just kind of a launch, kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of approach to kind of getting ready for that spaceship to launch off and kind of your programs to get moving. But the biggest is just enrolling kids trying to make sure that we're kind of going to meet those attendance goals that you had set forth and the certain number of students that you had kind of planned to approach. We generally don't run into a problem of not enough students. We have a lot of where we have too many kids and we need more funding. But sometimes we do run into a situation where maybe we are not reaching our enrollment goals. And again, just something that we can reach out and kind of work through. But start getting kids ready. Start, reaching out to families in the community if you haven't already, getting kids signed up, working with your school district to get them signed up for those targeted schools that you had in your application, but just trying to make sure that we've got everything in place for the school year or as you begin to kind of launch your program. Begin kind of thinking about recruiting your teachers, your employees, your partners, your community groups to kind of provide that best, those field trips, those engagement opportunities, whatever that happens to be, activities, programs, etc. Begin buying your supplies and snacks and kind of, again, getting ready to keep kind of kids happy and healthy and kind of engaged. Unfortunately, this funding does not really pay for meals, but it does provide for snacks. Meals is kind of one of those weird areas that this funding is not allowed to pay for unless there's certain kind of activities like a family engagement event, which again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But kind of start ramping up, start getting ready with all your supplies and everything well ahead of time. This is also maybe a good opportunity to just kind of check back in with your budget planning group and kind of your business office. Just try to make sure everybody's on the same page about what's being used and for what. I had mentioned during our directors meeting prior to this that there's been a lot of talk about federal funds and kind of a lot of groups have gone back to the drawing board about kind of what funds are being used for what and how we can maybe move things around with some of the uncertainty with different federal funding programs. So it might be a good opportunity to kind of check back in just to make sure nothing has gotten off track or things have been moved around that you maybe weren't aware of and kind of buckets are being used in different ways. But it could be a good opportunity to kind of, again, just kind of reach back out and just make sure, does the budget still make sense? Are we still on kind of track for using these funds as we had originally planned? And then again, kind of reaching out if something has changed, if anything has been modified. And then set up a process, I would say, again, now kind of the sooner better than later about how to collect some of the required data that you're going to need for various things. And as I had mentioned, because of kind of the way that we collect data and you report on the prior year performance, some new groups maybe don't think about this until the end of the first year. Then they're like, well, wait a second, we need that data. And then we go back and then your evaluators or your data team are like, well, wait a second, you should have been collecting X number of data or this data. So it's a good idea to really kind of hammer this home before the program sorts or as you're kind of kicking things off. What do we need and how do we make sure we're collecting that so we don't have any surprises later on down the line that we say, oh, shoot, I didn't realize we had to be collecting this information. It's better to try to get this ahead of time so that we have everything kind of lined up and queued up, ready to go further down the road. And as I've mentioned a couple of different times, the After School Alliance will kind of be checking in with groups, and I will be checking in with groups. Heidi and Adriana will be doing best practice site visits here during your first year to kind of check in and kind of make sure things are going well, and if there's any questions or concerns, and kind of helping throughout the year with different professional development opportunities and check-in meetings and all sorts of different things. But Heidi, I don't know if you have anything to say about the best practice visits that you tend or you're going to be coordinating.
Oh, just that they're informal and they're not evaluative at all. We do use like a little template to gather notes and things like that, but really it's just more for us to help you with any challenges that you're dealing with. But it's not any kind of evaluation or reporting, so it's a zero stress.
Very good. And I need to watch my time. I told you I'm talking, talking. I need to watch my time, and we're going to take the full hour, I guess. So I'm going to try to speed things up. Again, I know this is being recorded, and we'll give the PowerPoint, the slide deck out to everybody, as well as some additional resources. But how do we monitor the program? Trying to make sure that you're collecting a bunch of pictures, a bunch of data, a bunch of testimonials. Again, these are going to help as you're trying to market and promote your program. But also, again, some of your program evaluation is as we start collecting information about how things are going, it's nice to just have them ready, kind of queued up, ready to go, so you can kind of just email those or get those out. Or if we have news stories, groups are reaching out, you kind of have this kind of ammo built up. We'll talk quite a bit about partnerships throughout the years. We're trying to build out that partnership and groups that you're maybe not thinking about, but I put a couple of groups here, ideas to maybe think about if you're not already partnering. And there are so many groups out there, and employers, particularly, I want to try to do a lot more with getting our business and industry partners involved because they are just itching for ways to get involved with students and trying to help be part of that kind of future workforce and kind of shaping them up. We're going to talk about some of the required meetings in a couple of slides, but two of the big ones are director meetings, the monthly director meetings. And then right after that, to try to make it as easy as possible, you have a director's meeting on a Friday morning. And then right after that is we'll have this new grantee and staff transition meeting. So it's an opportunity for you to join for the director meeting to hear about kind of the broader stuff. But then that meeting right after it is maybe digging deeper into some of the stuff we talked about or other kind of applicable things that you need to be aware of given that time, that month kind of within the process and upcoming things to be aware of. But we're trying something new where we're going to try to kind of stack those meetings together so you don't have 2 days of meetings, but rather one meeting with two or one day with two meetings kind of stacked, built back to back. So hoping that helps save some time. And then there are some community of practice committees that you are going to be required to be a part of one of these groups. And then again, I've got a slide coming up that talks a little bit more about those groups. I would say something else that I wanted to just bring to your attention is just don't be afraid to spend your money. You have your budget, you have everything in there, but I know a lot of you are used to just working off like shoestring budgets, right? Like I don't want to spend things, I got to save it, I got to wait. Well, we run into, unfortunately, sometimes, particularly our new grantees, we run into a situation where they've just been saving, saving, saving. So fourth quarter comes and then they've got a bunch of money that they haven't saved. And then we run into issues of having too much money to carry over. So try to make sure you're using that funding throughout the year. And I'll try to watch this and see if anything is going on. But I would say just spend your money. When in doubt, spend it. Just to try to make sure that we don't run into an issue where we might lose any of that funding for whatever reason. Field trips are a great way to spend some of that funding down, by the way. And then so just something that also just gets kids out of their kind of the center, out of the school building, the campus, whatever, just to get them out and kind of learning and kind of engaged. And then again, tell your story often. This is something that I think a lot of groups struggle with. So we're trying to develop more marketing materials and kind of social media kind of strategies for your groups, or that I can kind of help support you at the state level with stories or trying to get the word out, as well as I know the After School Alliance is a lot of really cool stuff to try to get the word out. But this is something that I think a lot of groups kind of struggle with, and they don't kind of shoot the kudos out there as much. They don't kind of pat themselves on the back and try to make sure that their community is aware of the benefits that you provide. So again, we'll be talking quite a bit about that throughout the year. We've got some really great resources that we're going to send you. One of the newer ones is a grantee checklist, a new grantee to kind of, again, try to understand kind of what's required of me. What are some things I need to be aware of that I can kind of start keeping track of? And then the timeline for some things, and then kind of roles and responsibilities, some information that we'll be sending out just to try to help you kind of recap what we talked about today, but also just kind of Cliff's notes, kind of broad overview of what I need to be aware of and things I should be thinking about moving forward. So some of the requirements, and again, I've already kind of touched on a couple of these things. Family engagement meetings, we have a requirement that you have 4 of these for each of the years that you receive funding. So they're quarterly at minimum. You know, if you want to do more, that's fine. And funds are available to be used for these groups in different ways. Like I said, I know a number of groups will provide snacks or maybe pizza nights, stuff like that, kind of meals. That's entirely fine. But this is a way for you to bring the parents in, get them involved, and also community partners. So they can see your center, they can meet your kids, they can meet your staff. Maybe that'll lead to sponsorship or increase, partnerships leading forward. But this is a way for you to get the community involved and see what's happening with your programs. And really, again, kind of sing your praises and kind of brag a little bit about all the great stuff that you're doing, and then to have your kids kind of see all these different groups and kind of talk about what they're proud of as well, and kind of get the parents involved, teachers involved, and so forth. So it's just kind of a cool way to get kids involved with other members of your community as well. But this is a requirement, 4 per year, quarterly basis, but you're welcome to do more. Another requirement has to do with site visits. Again, I know Heidi mentioned kind of the one that is maybe not a requirement, but a best practice kind of that they do, the After School Alliance. But then we've got a couple of other ones that through I already mentioned at the end of year 3, if you want to continue funding for that year 4 and 5, we do a comprehensive site visit, so that is a requirement. But then there are also potential to do some of these things kind of virtually. I want to try to get out and kind of just visit groups more often than just, once every 3 years. I want to just get out and kind of see things, particularly if you're doing like a family engagement night. I just want to come out and kind of meet your group and kind of meet with parents, kind of just mix it up and see what's going on as well. But we do have some requirements for some site visits that are on the screen here. You don't have to worry about the comprehensive one for quite some time. We have program evaluation requirements as well. And again, there's going to be kind of a year, so you don't really need to, I guess, quote unquote, worry about it this year. You don't need to do a program evaluation, but you will next year for the current year. So local evaluations are something that you will pay for with funds. You will hire an independent local program evaluator that will kind of run through your program just to make sure everything is under compliance and things are being done. We've got a bunch of guidance about what that is and the ins and outs, and also a training for those local evaluators so they understand themselves once they're hired to do this. But this is generally due by the end of the year, not this year for you, it would be next year. And then we also do an annual state evaluation survey just to gather some data that maybe isn't being collected either through that local evaluation or through that online federal program, that 21 APR data collection process. But again, it's kind of a year behind, so not something that you need to be doing right now, but something that, again, I like to give a caution to, just to make sure that you're collecting the data that your local evaluator is going to ask for next year, so we don't run into any issues where we have to kind of scramble to try to figure things out. Professional development, I'm watching my time here. A series of events and meetings are offered throughout the year. So we have the new grantee orientation. Hello, we're doing that today. So not something you're going to need to do again. But the Impact After School conference that's going to be offered in the end of September. There is a requirement that you have someone from your program join. That might be you, but generally we try to make sure that there's at least one person from each of your programs joining that is receiving funds, and that's a great conference. And I know we'll talk quite a bit more as we kind of get closer to that program or to that conference. We also have best practice webinars that you'll see offered throughout the year that are covering different topics. Is this quarterly, Heidi, or is it kind of every other month? I don't remember if there's a set time frame for the best practice webinars.
Best practice webinar, they're at least quarterly, but Iowa After School Alliance offers them more frequently than that too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Got you. Very good. But topics sometimes we hear from groups from you directly, but otherwise, yeah, just general kind of after school things that are benefit that are going to help your program in different ways are offered. As I mentioned, we have the monthly directors meeting and then the new grantee staff transition meetings that are required for you to attend. And that's really a way just to stay up to date on different things that are happening. And then again, just trying to stay on the timeline of what's expected of you and kind of upcoming deadlines that might be fast approaching. And then the bi-monthly committee meetings, which you're able to choose one of those groups to join. And then I've got a slide coming up that talks about those groups. But you're able to request one-on-one technical support at any time. We're happy to do that either from us or the After School Alliance. And then there is a tracking sheet that's provided for you to keep track of professional development because you do get reimbursed if there are travel costs, lodging costs, stuff like that, if you're going to different things, just to try to meet some of those requirements for PD, for professional development. Community practice committees. So again, I know I've referenced this a couple of different times. We've got 4 groups that meet to talk about some of these required program areas like the evaluation or the family engagement events. These groups are attended, they're very informal. But we have just a Zoom, a virtual meeting where we talk about kind of that requirement and how can the Department of Ed support you in that? How can the After School Alliance support you in that? How can we make this better? What are some rules that are kind of hanging things up or not great that we can maybe look at improving or removing or modifying? But these are a way for you to get involved in an area that you maybe like and you want to try to help support. And so you are required to join for one of those, though. And it doesn't matter which. So you can pick one of those and we'll begin meeting throughout the year, but something to begin maybe thinking about, and we'll talk a bit more about this again as those groups start meeting and which one you may want to start joining. I know I hit you with a bunch and it did end up taking like the entire hour, but are there any questions about anything I covered or didn't cover or anything that maybe was unclear that we can talk about real quick here?
Joe, just a quick question on submitting claims for the upcoming year. Same claim spreadsheet as the previous year?
Yep. Yep. Nothing has changed. So there is a spreadsheet. Yeah. So we want a certain type of report that kind of shows claims throughout the year, but then there's also a claims kind of budget sheet that we have groups fill out. Yeah, nothing has changed with that. Any other questions?
Just while we're
Yep.
waiting for questions, I did go ahead and throw 2 links in the chat. One is for the Impact Conference registration. If you're not registered for that yet, and you want to get yourself and your staff registered for Impact in September, great, that's there. And then the first link is to our in-person directors meeting on the 24th of September, Wednesday, here in Des Moines. And for that, we're just asking you to tell us that you're coming and who you're bringing with you. And if you have questions about those things, you reach out to me and Adriana. We're happy to help you.
I guess I do have one more question. If we host a professional development night with like our full staff, would we be able to, if of course enough time ahead, to invite either the After School Alliance or you, Joe, as the Department of Ed to come in and provide information about, title programs and things like that?
Yeah, I would certainly be happy to. Yep.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
love to come.
Sounds good. I will make sure we know that for this fall. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bailey, you already know we'll drive to Waterloo for a quick presentation.
Yeah.
This is true. You guys were a huge hit at the Exchange Club. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming up and spending the day.
It was fun.
Congrats, President-elect.
Thank you. Yes, a voluntold commitment.
Yeah, that happens.
Look at that, Joe. 11:59.
I know. Yeah. So, thanks for reaching out or thanks for attending today. And yeah, just reach out if you have any questions. I know we hit you with a bunch of information and I know I said it about a million times, but we're here for you. We're going to walk through every step of the way with you. So, don't be afraid to reach out. And if there's anything that you heard today, like, holy cow, this is way too much, or I'm worried about this requirement, we're happy to chat with you and just, reach out, phone call, email, whatever. But we're looking forward to, I'm certainly looking forward to working with each of you, and keep up the great work. You all do great work. I know you maybe don't get thanked as much. It's often a thankless job, but keep up the great work. And I'm certainly looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye, you too.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
See ya.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Great. You too. Bye-bye.